is Rath from Parker's Library. I have something very special to share with you today, and that is a story that I just loved from my childhood. It's called The Man Whose Mother Was a Pirate. And lots of families have different traditions, and in my family, a tradition that we had was that when you bought a book and gave it to somebody in the family, you wrote a little note to them inside of the book. And so this book comes from my aunt, and she wrote a little note inside it. You can see it right there. And it says, "Merry Christmas, Tasha." Yes, that's my first name. "The beautiful descriptions of the sea in this story reminded me of your enjoyment of the ocean. I send lots of love to you, Marianne." Oh, what does that look like? Do you see the pirate flag? And the treasure, the pirate treasure. The Man Whose Mother Was a Pirate by Margaret, Mahy. Pictures by Brian Froud. Now, there was a little man who had never seen the sea, although his mother was an old pirate woman. The two of them lived in a great city, far, far from the seashore. The little man had a brown suit with black buttons and a brown tie and shiny shoes, all most respectable and handsome. He worked in a neat office and wrote down rows of figures in books and ruled lines under them. And before he spoke, he always coughed. Well, one day his mother said, "Shipmate, I want to see the sea again. I want to get the city smoke out of my lungs and put the sea salt in there instead. I want to fire my old silver pistol off again and see the waves jump with surprise." "Mother," the little man said, very respectful and polite. "I haven't got a car or even a horse, and no money to get one or the other. All we have is a wheelbarrow and a kite." "We must make do," his mother answered sharply. "I will go and load my silver pistol and polish my cutlass." The little man went to work. He asked Mr. Fat, who was the man he worked for, "Mr. Fat, may I have 2 weeks to take my mother to the seaside?" "I don't go to the seaside," Mr. Fat snapped out. "Why should you need to go?" "It's for my mother," the little man explained. "Well, I don't see why you should want to go to the seaside," said Mr. Fat crossly. "There is nothing there but water. Salty at that. I once found a penny in the sand, but that's all the money I've ever made at the seaside. There is nothing financial about the sea." "It is for my mother," the little man said. "I will be back in 2 weeks." "Make sure you are," Mr. Fat said crossly. Ooh, he does look cross. So they set off, the little man pushing his mother in a wheelbarrow and his mother holding the kite. His mother's short gray hair ruffled merrily out under the green scarf she wore tied around her head. Her gold earrings challenged the sun, throwing his own light back to him. Between her lips was her old black pipe, and she wore behind her ear a rose that matched her scarlet shawl. The little man wore his brown suit and boots, all buttoned and tied. He trotted along, pushing the wheelbarrow. Oh, look, there's her cutlass. Ooh, it's big. Oh, here's the kite. Ooh, look at that. Does that look like a stormy ocean? As they went, his mother talked about the sea. She told him of its voices, It sings at night with a sad, booming voice. Under the sun, it laughs and slaps the side of the ship in time to its laughter. Yes, and then when a storm comes, it screams and it hates the poor sailors. And the sea is a great gossip. What is the weather at Tierra del Fuego? Is the ice moving in Hudson Bay? Where are the great whales sailing? The sea knows it all, and one wave mutters and whispers it to the other and to those who know how to listen. Yes, indeed, Mother, the little man said, puttering the wheelbarrow along, and his shoes hurt rather. Where are you going? A farming fellow asked him. I'm taking Mother to the seaside, the little man answered. I wouldn't go there, the farming fellow remarked. It's not a safe place at all. It's wet and cold and gritty. I'm told not comfortable, like a cowshed. Well, it's very musical, Mother says, the little man replied. Well, there's the farmer. Oh, look at his big cow. That's a big cow. In his mind, look at his mother, and it's the ocean coming out, the imagination, her memories of what it was like, but she hasn't seen it in so long. In his mind, he heard the laughter and the boom and the scream and the song of the sea. He trotted along, pushing the wheelbarrow. His mother rested her chin on her knees as she jolted along. Yes, it is blue in the sunshine, she said, and when the sun goes in, the sea becomes green. Yet in the twilight, I have seen it gray and dreary. And at night, inky black and wild, it tosses beside the ship. Sunrise turns it to a beaming gold, and the moon to liquid silver. There is always change in the sea. They came to a river. There was no boat. The little man tied his wheelbarrow with his mother in it to the kite string. His neat little mustache was wild and ruffled by the wind, and now he ran barefoot. Hold on tight, Mother, he said. Up in the air they went. As the wind took the kite with it, the little man dangled from the kite string, and his mother swung in her wheelbarrow basket. Look at that. Swinging by. They're trying to get over the river. Oh, this is all very well, Sam, she shouted to him, but the sea, the sea, it rocks you to sleep, it tosses you in the air, it pulls you down to the deep, it speeds you along and holds you still, it storms you, it calms you. The sea is bewitching, but bewildering. Yes, Mother, the little man said. As he dangled from the kite string, he saw the sea inside his mind. Can you guys see it? Can you see all the things she's saying about the sea and what it's like and how it changes? He saw it, the green and the blue of it, the rise and the fall of it, the white wings of the birds she talked about, the white wings of the ships. The kite let them down gently on the other side of the river. Where are you going? Asked a philosopher fellow who sat there. I'm taking Mother to the sea, the little man told him. Why do you want to go there? Well, the sea is something very special, the little man answered him. It is full of music and strange songs and stories full of shadows and movement. My mother is very fond of it. You love it too, don't you, little man, said the philosopher. Well, the little man replied, the more I hear my mother talk about it, the more the thought of it swells inside me, all glowing and wonderful. There he is talking to the philosopher. And there's the little man. There's his mom waiting in the wheelbarrow. Then the philosopher shook his head. Go back, little man, he said, because the wonderful things are always less wonderful than you hope they will be. The sea is less warm, the joke less funny, the taste is not as good as the smell. The old pirate mother called from the wheelbarrow, waving her cutlass. I must go, the little man said shyly. Off he ran, and as he trundled his mother away, he noticed that 2 buttons had popped right off his coat. Something new came into the wind. What's that? There's the salt. His mother sniffed the wind. There's nothing as joyful as salty wind. The salty sea wind. And suddenly they came over a hill, and suddenly there was the sea. The little man could only stare. Wow, look at those waves. He could only stare. He hadn't dreamed of the bigness of it, of the blueness of it. He hadn't thought it would roll like kettle drums and swish itself onto the beach. He heard the strange, wild music of waves and seabirds, and he smelled wet sand and seaweed and fish and ropes and driftwood. The little man opened his eyes and his mouth, and the drift and the dream of it, the weave and the wave of it, the fume and the foam of it, it flooded into him, and it never left him again. At his feet, the sea stroked the sand with soft little paws. Farther out, the waves pounced and bounced like puppies, and out beyond, again and again, the great, graceful breaker waves moved like kings into a court, trailing the sea behind them like a peacock-patterned robe. Right behind them, see it trailing the robe as they come in like kings. Then, with joy, the little man and his mother danced hornpipes along the beach. How the little man's neat clothes grew wild and happy to be free. A rosy sea captain came along. Oh, there he is. Well, here are 2 likely people, the captain said. Will you be my bosun, madam? And you, little man, can you be the cabin boy? Herm! Thank you, said the little man. Say aye, aye, sir, roared the captain. Aye, aye, sir, smartly replied the little man, as if he had never had a herm in his throat. And then he sang as he twirled on his toes. No matter that I dance on my toes. Goodbye, Mr. Fat, and figures in rows, and inks blue gleaming. For where the sea goes is beyond all dreaming. So Sailor Sam went onto the ship with his pirate mother. There they go. They're walking over to the ship. Not a very big ship. And the sea captain, and a year later, somebody brought Mr. Fat a letter that had been washed ashore in a bottle. Remember, that was the little man's boss. Having a wonderful time, it read. Why don't you run off to the sea too? And if you want any more moral to this story, you must go to the sea and find it.